Hi, I'm Jordan Olson, the girl with the great smile, and I am fabulous.
So you were at Uncanny Experience, which was awesome. So that's where
Yeah,
we
it was
met.
first year. Yeah.
Yeah, first year. What'd you think?
I had a really great time. Usually at conventions, I usually feel like excluded for the most part, and I just kind of do my own thing. But I've known people online who were there, and I was like, oh my God, people I recognize. Oh my God. And then I got to meet a whole bunch of new people. A whole bunch of people actually recognized who I was dressing up as, who, if anyone doesn't know, I dress up as North Star a lot of the times. But next year I have a different character that I'm going to dress up as. This is one of the cosplays, but which is a North Star cosplay, but next year I have something else planned in mind. But yeah, also I wasn't expecting to actually place in the cosplay contest, so I haven't placed in one of those since 2021. Just letting you know that now.
That was pretty awesome. I think that was it's such an amazing event. I was there last year, and I didn't think it could get better with the second year, and somehow it did.
Yeah,
Um,
I only went into the quiet room once, and at conventions, if they have one, I usually am going into it a couple times because I feel so overwhelmed. But I didn't really feel all that overwhelmed. I think, like, I guess the most disappointing, which isn't really their fault, was the hotel breakfast food. I guess I'm like so used to like Arizona food that eating that kind of food was not good. Like I had to go get a convenience store burrito to make it up.
Oh man, I gotta make sure next year that we're in touch with that because there is a breakfast place right across the street from the Minneapolis Club called the Hen House, and a big
Mm-hmm.
group of us Saturday and Sunday morning went there, and it like absolutely mind blowing. I got addicted to their chicken and waffles, their coffee. Yeah. There was a group of us every morning. I'll have to make sure, like next year, like, hey, come join us because an
Yeah,
event like that, you got to get the calories in.
I'll have to hit up my friend who I went with this year because I don't want to just leave her in the dust. So I'll have to hit her up, be like, "Hey, let's go to this place. We didn't get to
Yeah.
do much this year." Um, but yeah, it was still a lot of fun. I got to meet a whole bunch of new people. I actually felt accepted at a convention, because I didn't have to deal with all that drama from where I am. So yeah.
That's one of the things that I think I love most about the X-Men community because it's like you can have, and I'm not trying to like throw shade at other fandoms or anything, but the X-Men fandoms are just different because of the fact that I think a lot of us have like a personal connection to it because in some way, shape, or form we felt different growing up. We felt like we were the oddball out, and there's that sense of like found family versus like birth family. Yeah, probably one of the most accepting groups that I've ever known. And it's kind of funny. Here I am about to turn 45 years old, and I didn't feel that like level of acceptance till I was like 41, 42. And it's like now it's like where has this been all my life? It's incredible.
Yeah. Like I first started reading comic books when I was around 16, 17, more around like going into that thing around 16 because of the MCU. Obviously, everyone has their own thing how they got into it, but I first fell in love with Young Avengers, right? And I'm still a Young Avengers fan, but that was like the first team that I really connected with, especially the character of Wiccan, right? Who That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. We're not going to get into that today. But then I got introduced to the character Richter, right? Like I said, not the reason for why I have my name, but he's there. And so I was like, I don't want to read over 100 issues of X Factor right now. So I'm just going to read the shorter series called Extremists by Leah Williams, who's at Uncanny, by the way, if anyone was curious. And I'm going to read that. And so that's how I got introduced to North Star, Jean Paul. And I was like, he's an asshole. I kind of like him. So I read a little before like X Factor 2020 came out. I read a little bit of Alpha Flight and I was like, okay, cool, whatever. But then COVID hit. My senior year of high school was kind of ruined and I was like, okay, whatever. And then I found out that because I was in California for a little bit visiting a family member and we were able to go into this like comic shop, coffee shop type thing. Don't worry about it. And yeah, so I saw Marvel Zombies Resurrection and then next to it I saw X Factor #1. and like I said, I was still very much a Young Avengers person at the time. And so I saw David, Prodigy, and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna pick up this book and I'm gonna read it. Yeah, I did not pick up Marvel Zombies Resurrection because I picked up X Factor, just letting you know. So yeah, I would like to personally thank Leo Williams for getting me into North Star because he has definitely changed my life. I've become a lot more of a confident person and I started to not take as much shit as I used to. So yeah, as you can obviously tell, I have 3, soon to be a few more North Star cosplays coming up in the future. So I haven't done that with Wiccan. I only had the one and I retired him years ago.
That's actually like an incredibly like inspiring story to hear because I think it's absolutely true. I think that it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. The way people can like identify with the character and how it can like actually like mentally help them in a lot of ways. I was similar to that when I was a kid. Everybody at Uncanny Experience is always making a big deal because Chris Claremont is there. And when I was a kid and I first started reading X-Men, he was the writer of X-Men at the time. So to me, he's like a legend. Like, oh my God, especially back then, we didn't have the internet. You just got that book every month and it said Claremont in it. You didn't know what he looked like. You didn't know what his voice sounded like. You didn't know any of that. He was just this mysterious person up on Mount Olympus, just dropping comic books for us, right?
He is an icon and he is a legend and he is the moment.
He is.
I was pretty grateful that I got to talk to him a little bit at the after party. I was like, oh, thank you for co-creating Alpha Flight. Like, I'm such a big fan of it. And he was like, no, you got to thank John Byrne. Like, I only put the words on the paper. And I'm like, but you still like technically did something. But yeah, no. So fun fact, I actually haven't read a lot of the original X-Men runs because I've been rereading Alpha Flight so much. And like because of that, I started to identify more with Wild Child. So fun fact, I might be neurodivergent. Might be. Probably. Most likely.
Let's hear the spicy nugget lore. I'm all about that.
But so at first I just kind of thought that he was like whatever, and then I reread it, and I was like, wait, he's just like me for real. And like this other thing because I have a mutual on TikTok who's also an Alpha Flight fan who brought up that Wild Child is kind of like an allegory for autism.
Okay.
In a sense, I don't they didn't really get to explain it all that much because the video didn't get super popular, but I can kind of see it, with how he acts, especially when he's in his more animalistic form, but not like super like vicious. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, yeah, I can see that. And then I read Hellions by Zeb Wells, and I was like, yeah, I could definitely see it, personally. Don't read Weapon X. Don't read Weapon X. That book was awful. If you are a Wild Child or an Aurora stan, do not read that book. I swear.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Sabretooth stan and you don't like those two characters, go off, I guess. But don't read that book. That was torture porn, the book.
Did you ever read the 90s? Did you bring up Sabretooth and Wild Child? Did you ever read the 90s Age of Apocalypse storyline?
Kind of, a little bit. Here and there. I mostly read Factor X and then like the Age of Apocalypse book that came out later on because the twins were in it. And I plan on cosplaying Age of Apocalypse North Star in the future. I was gonna do it this year, but I didn't end up doing it, so save it for later. But I read a little bit of it and I'm just like, get my boy off of the damn leash, Victor.
Yes.
Don't get me started with Sabretooth War. That made me so angry.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, that it was kind of like, yeah, Wild Child pretty much spent the thing asleep on his shoulder until Victor needed him and then kind of yanked the chain and was kind of like, go get him. But other than that, didn't have a whole lot to the story.
Yeah, if hypothetically, if I was ever hired by Marvel to write a story, one of the stories that I would love to write is a one-shot about Wild Child. And at the end, I would personally bring back Diamond Lil because she was not brought back on Krakoa, and I'm annoyed. Fuck you, Jeffries.
Were you a fan of the Krakoa era?
Yeah, I didn't read a lot of the books because, that's a lot of damn books, and I don't got the time. But Yeah, I read a couple of them. Obviously, X Factor. I read the second volume of Marauders because Aurora and Akihiro and Somnus were in it. And I read Hellions later. I still need to read Excalibur. Teeny, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I'll get to it later. I promise you. And then I read like a couple other books here and there. But I remember I was thinking about it and I was like, Kurt, wasn't one of the rules was make more mutants? I didn't see enough sex here. And that's coming from me. Where was it all?
Yeah. Poor Hickman tried. Poor Hickman tried. I don't know if you caught like the wind of the whole like, Logan Scott Jean thruple thing that was going on Krakoa.
I wouldn't say beef, but it's not my favorite polycule of the X-Men. My personal favorite polycule with Logan is him, Kurt, Colossus, and Storm. And then for Storm, you can have Callisto and Yukio, but that's besides the point. We'll talk about that later. But that's personally my polycule because they've had so much history together. They were on the X-Men together with Banshee and Thunderbird, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, and then I brought it up, funny enough, at Uncanny at the Queer X-Men panel, and they were like, huh, okay, let me think about this.
I sort of feel like you can't leave Domino off that list because Domino and Logan have sort of been friends with benefits. Like, it's kind of one of those things where writers ignore it, and then like after like 10, 15 years, they're like, oh yeah, randomly. Like they did the X-Force Sex and Violence miniseries, like, oh god, 15 years ago now. I feel like that would be a thing.
Yeah. Speaking of a lot of major books that I have not read, so as you know, I'm a big Alpha Flight fan, and so I remember when Gamma Flight first came out, and Puck was on the team, and I was like, I have to read for Puck. Puck's awesome. I did not understand a single thing that was happening in that book because I didn't read Immortal Hulk because I am not a Hulk stan.
Right.
I'll read Doc Samson. I'll read maybe Walter Lankowski. I'm not a big fan of a lot of Hulk stories, personally. That's just me. But yeah. But I'll read it one day, but today's not that day.
Right, yeah. There's always so much, and I can sit here and rightfully attest. I read my first X-Men comic in 1987. I would be lying to your face if I told you that since 1987 I've read every single X-Men book, because I guarantee you I have not.
There's so many. I still haven't read all of the 90s X Factor because I was gonna start when Wild Child pulled up because that's what I do sometimes. That's the only reason why I read the first Ultimate X-Men was because Northstar showed up in issue 46, which I actually have his first appearance, by the way. Thank you, Mad Titan Comics, for providing that at Tucson Comic Con. So yeah, I only read issue 46 onwards because I did not care about anyone else in that book. I only cared about him and Colossus as a couple, which we barely got anything about it. I'm going to write that fan fiction one of these days. I just got another one I'm working on.
Well, that's sort of they get, and it's sort of like there's you miss a little, you miss a lot with X-Men books. I've had several periods where like I was completely done with comics for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and then decided to come back. And I was kind of that way. I was kind of on a break, and it was just like I think like 2, 3 years ago I decided to come back, and now here I am doing a podcast about it because I can't stop talking about it. But there's so much volume out there, and it's that's why there are times where like I get irritated that with gatekeeping fans. Thankfully, there's not like within the X-Men community, they exist. I'm not gonna lie and say they don't. But by and large, not as many. And I was really worried for the second year of Uncanny that that's what we would have. We would have a lot of gatekeeping fans who would come in and be like, well, I need to be here because I've been, and it's, I absolutely cannot stand that attitude.
Yeah, I kind of hate those people too. So I'm on Twitter a lot. And so every time Marvel posts anything about a queer character, they're like, Marvel's gone woke. I'm going to DC. And it's like, bestie, my guy, my dude. DC has a lot of gay bitches too. You know that? But what kind of annoys me about Marvel with their queer characters is that they claim to care, but at the same time they don't care. Like, literally for like the anniversary, both anniversaries of when Northstar came out and also when he got married to his husband Kyle, Marvel did nothing But they did talk about Wiccan and Hulkling on JP and Kyle's wedding anniversary, so that's nice, I guess. Like, this is no hate on Billy and Teddy. I love them, but like at the same time, I was low-key disappointed with their Pride special this year, not gonna lie to you there. Like, don't get me wrong, love the premise. It could have been its own thing.
Yeah.
And we could have still got the Pride book.
Yeah. I think when it comes to the comics, I think that Marvel, to a degree, when it comes to comics, and not necessarily, well, I'd probably do a degree the MCU and Disney Plus, they really, I feel anyway, that they want to get into that stuff and they want to embrace that stuff, but they're also terrified of their shareholders. And they're terrified that if they push it too far and there's enough of a pushback, to which I say, if you're going to do it, do it. Like, don't pussyfoot around. Like, if you're going to embrace it, then embrace it.
Like,
because
how do you think Jean-Paul came out? They just kind of did it, after several writers weren't able to do it. Scott Lobdell, who I got to talk to at San Diego Comic-Con for 3 years in a row, by the way, for almost 3 years in a row, I got to talk to him. And he was really nice about it. Some of my online homies were like, oh yeah, he's kind of weird. And I'm like, if I had to choose between him or John Byrne, I'm choosing Scott Lobdell. But regardless, literally, I remember, I think in 110 in the letters page, because they do letters pages, obviously, they had a whole page, like a whole letters page just dedicated to people's reactions to 106. And keep in mind, the writing and the art did not clash well, in my opinion. If I really wanted to, I probably could have redrawn it, but I'm too lazy to do that. I got things to work on. I gotta write my toxic yaoi fan fiction, okay? with North Star and Kyle in it. I'll get into that another time. Not right now. But yeah, literally, I was reading some of the letters page, and I was like, okay, this guy definitely doesn't approve. Fine, whatever. And then I read where it came from, and I was like, is this a KKK member writing a letters page about an Alpha Flight comic? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, pop off, I guess. People are weird, and they've kind of always been weird. But like, guess what? Guess who got the miniseries after Volume 1 ended? Not Mac. Not
That's
Walter.
right.
It was Jean-Paul.
Yeah, and it to me, like, there's nothing more frustrating than when people claim that X-Men has gone woke. And every single time I want to be like, issue 1, 1963, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's been woke.
Yeah. What's happened is you grew up reading it for the tights and the fights and the big pecs and the big tits and the big guns. And you never once allowed yourself to really fully realize the deeper meaning behind all of this. And then one day, when an issue comes out and there's queer characters or something like that, then they're like, wait a minute, you're pissing on my book. You're pissing on a childhood memory. And it's like, you have not taken the blinders off all these years that you have been reading these books. It is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, so it's been almost 10 years since Bobby Drake Iceman has come out, which was a whole thing in and of itself. It was really funny in retrospect. But people are like, oh, Bobby's always been straight. But like, there's been queer subtext since the beginning. Like, I remember there was a scene in, like, I think the first or second issue where Jean was coming into the school. And so basically all the other guys, Scott, Warren, Hank, they were like, ooh, a girl, ooh. And then you see Bobby's foot on the edge of the panel walking away. And he's like, why did they all care? So it's like, it wasn't really that shocking after reading that issue. And plus, in the first issue, we see Bobby going down like an ice pole, stripper side. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. People are just kind of weird, realistically, but I'm glad that Uncanny didn't turn out like that. Like, I was kind of nervous to pull up because I didn't go last year because I have a fear of planes, funny enough. But I decided to go this year and everything. But at the same time, I was scared that people weren't going to really like accept me or anything. They're going to think I'm like really weird and they're just going to be like, whatever, like I'll take a picture here and there. It's like, yeah, whatever. But like, I actually felt like I belonged and I could talk about Alpha Flight for God knows how long with some friends. And yeah, some of us, before the after party started, we all got there super early. We decided we're the new Quiet Council.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. If you don't know the Quiet Council rules, pull up to my Instagram. I will love to tell you.
Yeah, we got to discuss the Quiet Council off the air, by the way. 'Cause I'm still waiting on word whether I passed
Well,
the
I'll tell
vibe
you
check.
before we stop recording if you made it in or not. But
Okay.
to be nice to the audience who might be watching this, so the rules they're pretty simple rules to follow. One is be queer, right? You don't have to actually be queer, but if you're an X-Men fan, you're already queer in some flavor. 2, merchandise. Don't worry about it, you'll figure it out. That means vibes, you will be vibe checked. 4, profit. 5, someone invisible must be following you. It goes to rule 3. And then have fun. 6. Those are the rules. Those are the new Quiet Council rules. I think they're pretty simple to follow. You know, if you don't pass the vibe check, we will put you in the pit, though. So Sabretooth definitely is going in that pit because what the hell was the ending of Sabretooth War?
Right.
Don't get me started. That's a whole thing. I swear to God, if he killed Wild Child, I'm gonna fight him. It's on site. Don't touch my boy.
You can always say the one thing about comics is death is never permanent. I mean, Jean Grey's slogan has become BRB because
I mean, so is Quentin Quire.
Right,
he was killed in Sabretooth War and he was fine. Even
he ripped
Aki
his head off.
came back, even though I hate him.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. Yeah, that's but I think that's awesome that you had that experience at the Uncanny Experience because that's one of the things that I really truly love about it. And I come in with the most vanilla outlook in the world as somebody who grew up a middle class white straight male, and yet there can be all of this going on and it's amazing. And I just want to hug everybody. And I felt like after the first one, 3 weeks later, I was back in Minneapolis for a con, Twin Cities Con, and ended up in the same hotel, right there next to the Minneapolis Club. And I remember seeing the Minneapolis Club, and I had texted Dylan and Chandler this. I'm like, I've never in my life seen a building I wanted to walk up to and give a hug, because after the first one, it just had that. It was such a home vibe. It was such it felt more like a family reunion of a lot of people I didn't know. And the first one, I met so many people who are now real life friends I talk to regularly. And then the same thing happened this past year too.
Yeah, I cried afterwards. I tried not to cry on the plane, but when I got off the plane in Tucson, where I'm from, I cried. I definitely cried. I cried when I got home, but I couldn't cry too much because I had to get on my podcast 2 hours later. So I couldn't cry too much, but I did get to briefly talk about my experience there. I'm not the most well-articulated person compared to other people, but I did talk about it. It was probably the best convention type thing that I've ever been to. Really, for me personally, as someone who goes to a lot of pop-up events here in Tucson and then go to conventions, I've been to San Diego Comic-Con for almost 10 years at this point. I've been going since I was in 8th grade, give or take. Obviously taking the 2 years off because of COVID, obviously. But yeah, I think Uncanny definitely beat out SDCC in my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's the massive downside to Uncanny Experience is that it's only once a year. That it's such the first year was so good, and then it was God, I remember that it was end of September, and early November we bought our tickets for the next year when they went on sale. And I spent 10 months just looking at the tickets and my wallet app,
can you hurry up?
9 more months, 8 more months. That's why
luckily I have time before San Diego next year to work on my Wild Child cosplay because I gotta do Wild Child. I'm doing the outfit that he wears when he gets killed by Omega Red, by the way, if you were curious. So pre-Krakoan era.
Oh,
and then
okay.
I'm doing a character named Adam Frankenstein from this indie comic that I love called The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos. I love him so much. The Halloween special just dropped today, and it was so good. It was so good. Adam was in almost every story. He had a pinup. Beautiful. I need that on my wall right now. Give it to me right now. I have the sexy JP over here, okay? You can't really see it all that well, but I have him. He's right there. I have the Mermaid Twins, and up here I have the Richter Shatterstar print that I got.
Oh, okay.
So I did put some on my wall, but yeah. I'm also doing. What else am I doing? Oh, I'm doing Soma Cruz from Castlevania Aria of Sorrow specifically next year. So that's gonna be my second ever Castlevania cosplay. Fun fact.
There you go. You gotta get out to some Midwest cons, man. Or do you ever every year, every single year, the two that, or I should say three, if we count Uncanny Experience, I always hit WonderCon, C2E2 in Chicago. Like those two are just primo. They're second only to Uncanny.
If I wasn't working a minimum wage job, I definitely would.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we can't all be like Dylan and Chandler over here being able to actually go to all these cons. I would kill to go to all these cons. But yeah, funny enough, Uncanny and then LA Comic Con was this past weekend, and then I think Twin Cities is right after that. I'm just like, that's too many cons in one small thing. I want to try out KatsuCon one of these years, but we'll see. But I know some of my friends wanted me to go to this anime con in Phoenix called Saboten, and also Phoenix Fan Fusion, but besides the point. But it's like Saboten's the same weekend as Tucson Comic Con. I get paid at Tucson Comic Con to work there. Saboten's between two freaking hotels downtown Phoenix. No thanks.
Yeah.
Like literally the last time I went up to Phoenix was for Miku Expo, which is the concert, and that stressed me out enough. I'm good. I waited hours in that line just to get merch, like the merch line. And people were there since like 6, 7 a.m. And it's like, in cosplay? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But like, I wasn't even able to get a light stick. They only had 95, but besides the point. We'll talk about the mismanagement and all the BS from Miku Expo another time. But yeah, I was like, that's enough Phoenix for right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like compared to Tucson for me, I've always preferred Tucson more. I guess it's like less gentrified, if that makes any sense. Even though all the old white people from the Midwest and the East, like the East, you know, the Northeast always come down for the winter and then they can't drive and then it's just like they're annoying. No offense, but they're kind of annoying. It's usually the old people though. But it's like I'm just trying to vibe. I have one more con this year. It's Konnichiwa. It's like an anime con, which it's like it's kind of funny because I'm cosplaying 3 comic book characters. No manga or anime, but I don't care because half the people are going to be Genshin Impact anyways, and that's a Chinese game.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. But yeah, so I try to go to cons that I want to go to, but I think like I needed to go to Uncanny first because planes suck. So yeah, I think I needed to go to that first, get my confidence up a little bit. So maybe in the future I might go to like another out of state con, but I'm definitely not going alone. I'm going with someone. I'm stealing someone from where I'm from and taking them with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that 100%. And it's so fun. Dylan, you know, yeah, like you met Dylan and Chandler.
I met them at San Diego Comic Con last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they live right there in the Twin Cities. And so it's like Twin Cities Con. Even though I live in Illinois, I drive up for Twin Cities Con. And there's just like the Twin Cities has like one of such a great cosplay culture there. Like I've literally known people who lived in other parts of the country who moved to the Twin Cities for the cosplay scene. So we're Dylan and Chandler from Tyson, my friend Nikki. So Twin Cities kind of fun. All those people that are usually at C2E2, we all do a big group hangout. Same thing, WonderCon. WonderCon is amazing. It is like out of all the big cons, it's probably like it has the most family feel to it, if that makes sense. Like it's still a big con, but it's laid back, and that's
the vibe that I got when I went to Uncanny, and I was just like, I was told that the Midwest was like a pretty homey family kind of thing, and I was like, okay, I'll see what it means, and I was like, yeah, I didn't get to do much in Minneapolis when I was there because we got there Thursday. We walked around a little bit because we were trying to find this one dispensary. Don't worry about it. We're not going to get into it today. If you want weed, you come down to Arizona. That shit's legal. But besides the point. So we didn't do much on Thursday because we were kind of tired. Like my first flight was at 6 a.m. and my friend's was at 9. So we just met up at Denver. Don't get the fudge. Don't get a burrito. If you want a good burrito and fudge, you come down to Tucson. I'll bring you to some good places. But besides the point. I was disappointed. $10 fudge? Are you kidding me? For a tiny bar?
Yeah.
And then like I had the 5-hour layover and I was gonna try to sleep, but I didn't sleep. I just wrote fan fiction and drew fan art and went on Twitter for the whole time. And so we got there at around like 5 p.m. We were just kind of doing whatever. My friend got a drink at the bar because of course she did. She drank a lot this past con, so shout out to Sage. I will pay you back for the hotel fees, don't worry. So yeah, and so the second day we decided to go like walk around a little bit. We got some Korean barbecue because of course we did. It was me. Come on. And so like we did a couple other things. We obviously had to stop by Target because we needed to pick up some last minute stuff. And then we ate dinner, funny enough, on the first night that we got there. There was a convenience store on the bottom floor from where our hotel was. And they had instant noodles that you could just put hot water in. So I put hot water in it. I brought it back up to the hotel room and she got some too, and we just ate it there while she was watching her shows and I was watching random YouTube videos about history and war. Don't worry about it. So yeah, we bought a lot of stuff from that one random convenience store on the bottom floor of the hotel, like the ground floor of the hotel. So shout out. Those microwavable burritos got me through the weekend. It was kind of sad. Not gonna lie, but it worked. It was way better than the hotel food.
Yeah, I don't know why. Literally, I don't know why. I don't think this occurred to me until now because I didn't know you prior to Uncanny. But like a couple months before that weekend was coming, I started a group chat on Instagram with people I knew were going to be there and told people like, hey, if you know other people are coming, invite them to the group chat. And it ended up into like almost like a Discord on Instagram kind of thing where
but there is a Discord.
Yeah. I gotta make sure I invite you to that chat because I was like that week and we were like, hey, where are we going for breakfast? Hey, what are we doing for this? And not everybody did this. It's not like all like however many showed up, but it was kind of a fun way to keep in touch.
Yeah, I was brought into a group chat called Mutant and Loud because I was kind of grouped in to like the scavenger hunt thing to find Lockheed. Remember that was something you could do?
Yeah.
So two of my friends, Al and Jay, shout out, they're getting married next year, fun fact. Around the time of Uncanny, funny enough. So they were hanging out with these other three people, and they invited me along to their thing, and so we just kind of hung out from there. And so yeah. We're in a Instagram group chat called Mutant and Loud. I invited my friend Sage on there so that she could be a part of it. And yeah, we just vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the best way to do any of those weekends. Like you were saying about grabbing somebody to travel with. The past 2 years I've gone to WonderCon. And I went solo, but by solo I mean both times I shared lodging with other cosplayers. Because like first of all, just to have somebody there is great. Second of all, like, financially. Like,
and also it's kind of like a safety thing too, especially if you go with someone that you already know. So yeah, I kind of went solo at San Diego Comic-Con. My family went too, and they only wanted to go one day because they don't care about it as much as I do. Mm-hmm. So I went for 3 days. I went inside the convention center twice and then outside for the third day because I didn't have a badge. But regardless, it's fine. So yeah, I kind of went solo for the most part. I took the cruiser, which is like this train. It was a really nice hour-long train ride. Recommend. So yeah, that was fun. I got to meet my online friend Paige, who I never got to meet in person. So shout out to Paige. We might start a podcast together. Maybe. I'm already on a podcast. They tire me out, but regardless, that's why I'm like down to do these like little guest appearances on other people's podcasts one of the days. So yeah, and so at at Tucson Comic-Con, which is one of the cons I actively go to as well, I live in Tucson. I could take a bus. I could take an Uber. Fun fact, the buses here are free, so I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, I have easy transportation, Same with Connie, Konnichiwa. There's just a quick bus ride away, Like I could get ready early in the morning and then I could take a bus over there and then be good. And then when I want to leave, I could just take a bus back or take an Uber or hitch a ride, So luckily for Comic-Con tickets, for general public, like the general public, luckily it's on October 26th instead of November. So I could get my Connie tickets and then go to Connie in peace and not have to wake up at 5 a.m. like last year. Oh my God, last year. So Saturday, I was dressing up as a character named Vil Schoenheit from a game called Twisted Wonderland. Love the game. So wore a full face of makeup, just letting you know. Today I kind of was like kind of chill because I was not about to do a full face makeup for this. No offense, but I'm tired. I got off of work a few hours ago. But I did a full face at 5 a.m. I waited in the living room because I still lived with my parents at the time. And I was just waiting there and I was just like, can we get our tickets already? I want to go to the con.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I did get my con tickets, just letting you know, and then we just vibed. I vibed at the con. So, yeah, I don't like having to wake up at 5 a.m. to get ready for conventions, but if you have to, you have to, you know?
Yeah, I did that. We did that. Oh God, in April we had for C2E2 we had a 2 hour drive in, and my wife Jamie, she was cosplaying Ahsoka, so I was up at 5 in the morning airbrushing orange on that woman's body so she could pull it off. But yeah, especially like me personally, I found this interesting when it comes to cosplayers, that I sort of like I revel in being, I guess, the scary dog sometimes, which I am frequently at cons. Which I didn't see coming ahead of time until it happened. But I don't know if you know. I know I brought her up earlier. I don't know if you know Nikki Bear cosplay. She did Domino all weekend at Uncanny.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Last year we split a hotel room at WonderCon, which was great because she had never been to WonderCon. She really wanted to go, but I mean, you know how those things are. Like traveling out of state for a con is not cheap. And I straight up,
I spent $400 on my plane ticket to Minneapolis, but I accidentally selected Phoenix instead of Tucson, so I had to spend almost $200 more just to fix it.
God, yeah, it's brutal, and that's what she was worried about. And I told her, I said, well, hey, I already got a hotel room. Like, if you want to crash, that's cool. The year before that, I went with my best friend Kayla. We split an Airbnb because that's the way to do those things. And it's also, and it was kind of the same thing at Uncanny. Like, my wife and I were then, we had a hotel room, but there were a couple cosplayers that I was friends with who, they'd be at the after party or whatever, and they'd kind of text me and be like, hey, I'm ready to walk back to the hotel. Can you? And I'd be like, yeah, let's go. Come down, I'll walk in, then walk back. That's fine.
So for the Mutant and Loud group chat I'm in, we were discussing that we should probably get like connecting hotel rooms. You know how you could do that sometimes. So that, or like we can have like a shared hotel room, maybe like split it into two, because why not? Makes life a little bit easier. But yeah, I actually am not opposed to like, hanging out with other cosplayers in a shared hotel room, because, if you can split it up again amongst a couple people, it makes your life a whole bunch more easier. I wanted to do that for SDCC, but I didn't know enough people going to SDCC to do that. Like I was helping Chandler out trying to find a hotel room. I was just gonna stay at my aunt's house in like 45 minute drive away, because that's free.
Yeah,
that is, and I could get a ride to the freaking bus, like the train station from there. Which don't know how long that ride was, but besides the point.
Right.
But no, I was helping out Chandler get a hotel, like trying to find a hotel, because he missed out on getting a hotel when they dropped the thing, because San Diego Comic-Con is too much sometimes. Like y'all tire me out.
Yeah. I've been told that, I think, ever since I was a young man, I wanted to go to San Diego Comic-Con because it is like, it's the Comic-Con, right? But the past couple of years, everybody I know who lives out there, they're like, if you come to WonderCon, don't bother. Like San Diego Con, it's so corporate, it's so crowded, it's so really insane.
Corporate. It is so corporate. I get lucky if I stay in the artist alley for long enough, or like find any like cool like actual like artists or like comic vendors or whatever. Like there's always that one comic vendor that goes every year. Funny enough, that's where Scott Lobdell's table is always at. It's at that specific comic spot. Get a whole bunch of Alpha Flight. One year got a whole bunch of 60s Captain Marvel because I love Marvel. I know you didn't probably see my badge, but on my badge I had a lanyard that I brought from home, and one of the buttons was a Marvel pin.
Oh, nice!
Like all my North Star pins were on the bag that I brought. Hold on, let me grab it.
Yeah.
So here's the bag, by the way. I still need to fill out this one. But I actually added a new addition to the bag because Redbubble exists. So I added a new pin to it. It's this one. It's from his X Factor era. You can't really see it.
Oh, yeah.
But Yeah, this is my North Star bag, by the way. So I have a couple North Star pins and a couple of other miscellaneous pins. Shaman's here because Shaman has to be here. Um, I also have this keychain as well with JP on it, which I bought it on Christmas Day, funny enough. Like Christmas Day last year, I bought it and it was but I wanted a theme bag for this year. I wanted to like make my name known as the North Star person, you know, because there was like 3 other North Star cosplayers this year, but most people knew me as the North Star cosplayer. So
yeah, I think I arrested one of them because that was my I don't know because we didn't meet until Sunday, but Saturday the cosplay that I went with because I was trying to come up with something
weren't you
random.
the TVA person?
Yeah, it was actually Department of Mutant Affairs or the Mutant Response Division is what
I
it
think
was.
I saw you.
Yeah, but because it had the orange on it, everybody thought.
Because I think I was talking to the Cassandra Nova cosplayer at the time.
That is my wife. Yeah.
We were just like kind of chit chatting a little bit, you know, here and there. So yeah, super cool person.
Yeah, yeah, she's pretty awesome. We went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine. The second time we went and saw it, we were in the theater about midway through. She leans over and she goes, "I'm cosplaying that for Uncanny." And I was like, "What?" And
Fun
she's
fact, I actually saw Deadpool and Wolverine Saturday of San Diego Comic-Con. In this cosplay specifically,
nice.
I was dressed up as 1610 North Star. I got a sunburn on my face at the time. If you see some of the pictures, you'll understand. But like I had my little Colossus Funko with me because in the Ultimate Universe they were dating, which I would like I said I wish we would have gotten more. But next year for Uncanny, I will get the proper Colossus Funko for it. I will get a 1610 one so I could just carry him around.
There you go. And I didn't, and you were a 1610 North Star. As somebody who hasn't read that, but I definitely recognize who you were doing. Like I definitely recognize that it was a variant of North Star, like right away. Like, oh, that is really freaking sweet. That's not something you see too often.
Yeah, and he only had 17 appearances out of 100 issues, so I had very little to work off of. Originally, I was going to do his green puffer jacket look that we see when he first appears, but then I kept reading it, and then he had the Academy of Tomorrow, which is the one I ended up making, which luckily I was able to use images from what Polaris and Havoc were wearing because they were also wearing similar costumes, so I was like, whoo! I'm gonna make this kid, and I'm just gonna make North Star an emo boy, and we're calling it a day.
There you go. I love it. Well, we here we are. We are up against the clock. This has been amazing. I hope I can talk you into coming on again sometime. Hopefully, this was worth it.
It was definitely worth it. It was a lot of fun. I do plan on coming back to Uncanny in the future. Obviously, when the tickets drop, when I see that post, I'm like,
bam. Hit it.
Take my money. Shut up and take my money.
Yeah, and it was crazy. It sold out the Friday night before Saturday of the event because I had a friend who's a Twin Cities cosplayer, and that Friday night we met and we did a Star Wars shoot together. And she was like, "Oh yeah, because she's friends with Dylan and Chandler and Nikki and all them." She's like, "Yeah, I'll probably stop by and say hey for a while." Well, then like an hour later, got announced that it got sold out. She hadn't got a pass. She was just going to show up and buy like, a pass and just, hang out. And, but yeah, they do those. If you want to get an Omega, those go super fast and they're also super expensive. I have an Omega.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I spent too much money on the ticket itself with the Hellfire after party thing that I didn't even go to because I thought the after party was the after party that we all went to.
Oh, okay. Oh, so, that sucks. You missed it.
It's fine. I survived, it's all good, but
we'll get you in next year. We crashed because Friday night before they have the Omega level party. And I am not an Omega. I have never been an Omega. Not once in my life have I been called an Omega. But yeah, there was a group of us who were walking. We had gone to a bar where there was like the Homo Superior podcast.
Oh, Brewhaven. Yeah, I was there.
Oh, were you?
I got to talk to some of the people who were hosting it.
Yeah, we were there and we were walking back. Of course, we were in the hotel, the Hyatt Centric right there next to the Minneapolis Club. And we were walking by the Minneapolis Club and we looked up and the lights are on up there. And we're like, we knew it was like the time that the party would be winding down. Because I think it was only a 2-hour shindig. And we decided to walk up, and the door was unlocked. So we just let ourselves in and went upstairs. And Dylan was like, "I thought I just saw Jamie walk by. What's going on?" And we're like, "Yeah, hey, we decided to crash your party. What's up?"
That
We're
would have been
Omegas
fun.
now.
Like, funny enough, the outfit that I wore was loosely inspired by what North Star wore in X Factor issue 6, I think, where after he gets brought back to life from being killed by the Morgan. So it was loosely inspired by that, mostly by like the colors and the silhouettes, not like the actual thing because it was a little bit different. But that vest was great. That's probably my new North Star vest.
I love it. I love it. I hope to see more of it in the future. Where everybody who's listening to this podcast who are new to you, where all can they follow you and find you at?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Witch of Jotun. It's with an E instead of a U, by the way, because I'm too lazy to change it. You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram at witch_of_Jotunheim with a U, not with an E. You'll figure out what my profile pic is later. You'll see a guy with a purple background. You'll understand. On Instagram specifically. If you want to find me on Tumblr, you can follow me on North Star Aria. I do postings on there, and you can find the link to my fan fiction that I'm currently working on. I need to edit the newest chapter that I'm working on. And yeah, if you want to follow me on the actual podcast that I'm on, you can follow me at Comic Fanatic. It's Fanatic with a PH, not with an F. A lot of people were confused. Yeah, you can follow us on there. You can watch all our reviews and everything like that. We're trying to hit 50 subscribers so we can start streaming on YouTube itself. And you can also follow the Twitter as well at Comic Fanatic 69. And if you find me on anything else, cool. I guess if you find my Gaia online account, pop off. I'm not doing much on Gaia.
Well, and anybody out there who's watching or listening to this podcast right now, if you follow me on Instagram, I have tagged you in everything as I post about this episode. So the links are there too. So in case you didn't catch all that or you're too lazy to write it down like I typically am, go to my Instagram. You will find all the links to their Instagram and everything else. And we'll be good to go from there. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much once again. You've been awesome. You've been amazing. Look forward to talking again in the future.
One final thing. I have concurred that you are now a part of the Quiet Council.
I'm part of the Quiet Council. Do we have to be quiet about it because it's the Quiet Council, or am I allowed to broadcast that?
No, you can broadcast it.
Oh, good. I'm going to fucking scream it to the world.
And yeah, hopefully if you see me at Uncanny next year, I will try to have badge ribbons. So let's hope I can have AZ North Star as a badge ribbon next year.
Ooh, yeah. Let me know. If you need any help with that, let me know too.
Don't make any promises, but I'll try my best.
I'll bring it up to the 6 months before mark and a 3 month before mark. Like, hey, how's that coming, by the way? Because, you know, if you conclude that you're neurodivergent like I am, I need someone to do that to me as well. So
we're working on it. Just go read any child's book and you're good.
Fair enough. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much, Richter. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, watching, listening, all that good stuff. Keep up the good vibes, and we'll see you all again soon.
Bye.